the largest trafficking organization in the United States is our education system. And they have used the word curriculum to hide it.
Our job as parents is to know what's going on with our kids in order to step in order to protect them.
Nobody is going to love our children or want to protect them and care for them more than we do.
It's in TV, it's on social media, it's in the classroom.
You cannot escape it. It doesn't matter where your kids are going to school. It permeates through the culture.
Let's talk about some of the online safety concerns.
Moms for America focuses heavily on prevention. What do moms need to know? And that's the reason why things like what you guys are doing with Simply Report is so critical, because we're hungry for tools.
Where is Moms for America, or the moms that you've mobilized, where are they stepping into this issue?
I'm going to say something that's going to freak people out, but you need to know.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Teen Protectors podcast. I'm Brittany Dunn, COO and co-founder of Safe House Project. Today, I'm joined with my co-host.
I'm Christy Wells, the CEO and other co-founder of Safe House Project. Safe House Project is a national anti-trafficking organization that helps train individuals to identify and respond to human trafficking, helps victims of human trafficking escape their trafficking situation and find hope and healing and a future. And ultimately, we're here to unite communities to see trafficking eradicated in America by 2030. Now, that's not a statement of what we can do on our own. That is a rally cry for everybody across America to step in, to step up, and to help be part of the mission to see trafficking eradicated.
Well, I'm very excited to introduce our special guest today. This woman has systematically organized and brought together moms around the country for over 2 decades to really mobilize us in community. She is a mother herself, a wife, and a fierce advocate for the vulnerable. So we are here to welcome Kimberley Fletcher, CEO, founder, and president of Moms for America. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is awesome to be with you, ladies. We were at the event the other day. We were able to have a press release, a press conference, and talk about this. It's great to meet you in person. I think what you ladies are doing is absolutely incredible and something that is desperately needed.
Well, thank you. So to get this out of the way, you're an Air Force spouse, and we're Navy spouses.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to discontinue the
I
show.
think
We
the
can't
show's
do
over.
it.
You.
Thank you for your
Everybody has
service.
their issues.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah,
it is a
thank you.
whole family thing. It's a family service when you join the military.
Yeah.
And we have something else unique in common. Tell us a little bit about your founding of Moms for America, because I know we have our story that involves our kiddos, but let's hear yours.
I think it's fantastic the way that God works. I just have to say, He always seems to call. You know how they always say when you ask the person who always is always busy because they're the person who will always do it. And when a mom, who is more focused, engaged, and part of the community and the home than a mom? Mm-hmm. So I think the Lord has been preparing his daughters in various different ways, putting us in the right places to meet the right people, have the right experiences, until suddenly he put something on our heart that is the most crazy thing that you've ever heard. And that's what happened to me. So I guess it started in 2001. My husband was stationed at the Pentagon on 9/11, and through a series of literal God-given miracles, he came home safe that day. But it changed me. When he came home, I dropped to my knees and thanked the Lord. But then I started to ask a lot of questions. How did we get here? And the questions that I started to ask, I realized that moment that I went from being patriotic to being a patriot. I've been on the front lines of freedom ever since. But it was the path that God put me on for those 3 years in between 2001 and 2004, where I swear I was under the tutelage of God, because the things that I was learning, the people that I was meeting, he was preparing me for something I had no idea was going to happen. And so in the fall of 2004, it really started in late August, I started to get this feeling from the experiences that I had during the election and with my family, some of the things that were happening in the community. I just started to get this feeling like I was supposed to start a national organization. And you're just like...
Make it go away.
I know that feeling.
We know that feeling.
What is that? To me, it's not
Sounds
to
a little
start
crazy.
small and then grow it. It's you're going to start a national.
You.
Right.
I couldn't stop thinking about it until the point where it literally was consuming me. And I was like, what do I possibly know about doing anything like this?
Right.
And my mom came over one day and I said, Mom, I just feel like I'm supposed to start a national organization. It's supposed to be about family and freedom, and that's all I got. And I don't even know what to call it. Now, any mother I would think would just laugh off the couch, right? But she didn't. She just looked at me and she said, well, why don't you call it what you know? And I said, what do I know? I'm just a mom and a homemaker, a homeschooler. What do I know? And she said, well, you should call it that. And I'm like, what? No one's going to take that seriously. Moms from America, homemakers from America. No one's going to take that seriously. And she said, maybe that's the problem. And she told me that I should call Phyllis Schlafly. And I was like, who's Phyllis Schlafly? And she's like, she's the woman who almost single-handedly stopped ERA. And I said, what's ERA? And she goes, yeah, you need to call Phyllis Schlafly. And I did. And she became my mentor. And the things I learned from her at her hand were amazing. But I was a mom, a homeschooler, 8 children. My youngest was 9 years old at the time. My oldest was 17. And God calls me to do something like that. I'm like, where do I fit that in? But you just do. He qualifies who he calls, and he knows the right people to call. And I remember one day I was asking, why me? Why me? There are so many people
question once or twice.
Right? Right? Because you think there are so many people who know so much more, could do a much better job. And one day it's just like I felt him answer me. And he's like, yeah, but they'll do it their way. And I want it done my way. And he knew I'd have to do it on my knees because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I know you ladies were put in the same position where it's like, here you go. This is the calling. This is the mission that you're going to be on. And the fact that it's 2 military moms, even though you're Navy, that are actually, I have to say, I have the greatest respect for Navy moms because your husbands are like on a ship 6 months out of the year. And mine, it was, home 6 weeks, gone 2 weeks. But then for a period of time, he was mostly just home. And when you're in the Navy, you're pretty much never mostly just home.
No.
You get to do wartime and peace times in the Navy. You're
right.
just part of this continual presence or something.
Her husband just got back from a 10-month,
deployment.
Float around in the Red Sea for a little while.
Well, and fighting the Houthis.
Oh, yeah. Round the clock.
Yeah, so your husbands are doing this and you're at home holding the home front and God calls you for this incredibly, critically important mission and then he qualifies you to be able to do it.
I think God took advantage of me, though, if I'm being real honest. I mean, having a 3-week-old, like sleep deprivation at its peak, no spouse and a 2-year-old, I really think that he knew what he was doing at that moment.
Well, if you can manage that, you can manage it.
And it was on maternity leave.
Right. She was on maternity leave. Both of our husbands left. We had 5 children under the age of 7. And it was right before Valentine's Day. Her husband hands me scallops on the way out the door, basically.
He got 3 days notice for this deployment.
Right.
Yes.
And so he's like, I was going to make these for her, but here, can you cook them? And so I had her over for Valentine's dinner and made scallops and risotto. It was lovely.
It's our anniversary now every single year. We celebrate it together. Our spouses have.
But we started talking and thinking through this because a friend of ours had gone to South Africa, seen a need to build up a safe house to protect kids at risk there. And he came back. He was launching an album to raise money for this house.
He's a Christian hip-hop
artist.
We look like we know a lot about hip-hop, don't you?
So I ran the PR for his album. But people started to go, that's great, but what are you going to do here? And similar to your point, to us, it was the land of the free and the home of the brave. And those things didn't happen on U.S. soil. And once we started to realize that it did
and rampant
and how bad it was, then we couldn't unsee it. And I remember us walking around her neighborhood shortly after, and the kids are so cute and they're so little and they're playing and they're picking flowers and we're balancing that with the reality of what we have started to figure out is happening here in America. And it was like so opposite, but you couldn't unsee it.
Yep.
And so felt like we were supposed to launch a national organization. We laughed because we were both in Virginia at the time. I was moving to California shortly later. And we're like, well, if we're when people ask, we can say we're coast to coast because you're in Virginia and I'm in California. But really it was just stepping in and saying yes, and then realizing that it was just going to have to be done on our knees.
Yeah. And so just for our audience, to give you guys a little bit of context, if you're just joining us, when we launched in 2017, it was estimated that 300,000 American children are trafficked every year in the United States, but that identification rates are only at 1%. And so it really was that thing where what you tolerate, you give permission to exist. And as moms, We don't like to tolerate anything that comes against our children. Are we right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You don't want to stand in between a mom and her children. It's not a good place to be.
No.
No.
And you've seen that firsthand. Can you share a little bit about the power of the mom and the fierce protective nature?
It is absolutely amazing to see, especially what has happened since 2020. I ran for school board in 2003, and I saw something wicked this way come. I saw what was happening to the curriculum. I saw it's perfectly normal, a totally pornographic book that is grooming children, introducing them to sexual concepts that they're not ready for. They just want more time, extra turn on the swing, more time on the playground. They just want to be kids. And we should be protecting the innocence of children. And when you send children to school, you're entrusting them to an outside entity that's going to teach them those things that you want them to learn. Reading, writing, arithmetic, real science, true history. It's not that hard. But they started replacing it. And I saw it in 2003. And I could tell that it had been going on for a long time. And so how I explain it to moms, because they, in 2020, 2021, they're like, where did this come from? Like, it's always been there. It's like the Lord of the Rings. The orcs were always underneath the ground doing their dark and evil deeds. It wasn't until the ground split open and suddenly they're everywhere and in your face that you're like, what is going on? That's what happened in 2020. Prior to that, I was trying to sound the warning. And unless it was something that directly impacted you, they all looked at me like a helicopter parent with a tinfoil hat. I started talking about these books years ago. I connected with a group of moms who started a group called Safe Libraries. And they were calling out these books, saying, listen, these are out there. You need to find out if they're in your children's classroom. And nobody paid attention because who would believe that you would want to harm children?
Right.
Nobody would believe that. And then when they started all the transitioning stuff and the you're not who you are and taking their identity and shoving sex in our children's classroom. I mean, they're sexualizing our children.
Right.
They're confusing them about who they are. They are preparing them to be trafficked. That's what they're doing. And so if you introduce them to these concepts young, then they don't have any way to know how to combat it.
Right.
And
because you're normalizing sexual content, but you're not creating the healthy boundaries or if the family system is broken down in some ways, then the families aren't there to help understand what are our kids being taught and then create the proper narrative around it. So you can't just hand kids a bomb and say, good luck. Like you have to teach safety around those things.
Well, and they're even hiding it from the parents. And that is a real tragedy. And that's one of the things that we work really hard to help parents understand, moms specifically understand, is you need to know what's going on in your child's life. And when they come in the door and you're asking them how their day was and they say fine, it's not fine. You need to ask more questions. You need to be at the crossroads. You need to preempt them and say, if there's ever anything that makes you feel ugly or dark or uncomfortable, you come tell me, because I am on your side. No one is going to love you like I do. We are on the same team. And you say it over and over again. And this is what really started moving this Mama Bear movement up to the scale that it is now. Because in 2020, they realized that the helicopter parent with a tinfoil hat was speaking truth and it was actually happening. And it started with the whole masking thing. That's when a lot of moms were like, this is not right. Medical freedom was the big thing. But then you start to connect the dots and you start to see all the other things that are happening. The sexualization of your children, they're hiding the pronoun ideas and shoving concepts down their throats that they're not ready to comprehend. And so that's when the moms really started to just rise up and they could not unsee what they saw when they were looking on the computers in their own homes where their children are having school and hearing the teacher say, you're not allowed to watch this. I'm sorry, when I was growing up, my mom always told me, if anyone ever tells you don't tell your mom, that is the first thing that you do. These are the things that we need to be telling our children. Right. Moms for America focuses heavily on prevention. What do moms need to know? How can you protect your children when you're not always going to be there and you aren't? You have to help your children understand how to protect themselves. We would never send our children out on a cold winter day without a coat, hat, and gloves. Why would we shove them out in the cold world and say, figure it out, I'll see you after school? Right. We have to be there and take the daggone phones away. A child does not need a cell phone. I had my 14-year-old daughter. from the time she was 11, started telling me that she needed a cell phone. And I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. And there's no reason for you to have a cell phone. But we moved to Hawaii, and I had this, we had this process that we developed. And it was, if you want something, submit a proposal. And
like
just
that.
submit a proposal. You got to think about it. You got to lay it out.
Business case. What is the ROI on this?
Yes.
Let's make sure the outcome is.
I love it.
I did
She
this
did
with
this to her 9-year-old.
I did.
Perfect.
He wanted to start a dog walking business, and obviously that would come back on me to help manage. And I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, I need the full business plan before you're allowed to market yourself to the community.
Did he get to open his business?
He's still working on it, but it's be created. He did market research. He went through the
I
whole
lo- this
neighborhood.
is so good.
And yes, he interviewed all the neighbors about how many animals they had and how much they would be willing to pay for it. It was fantastic.
This is the kind of thing we need to be doing with our kids.
Right.
Elevate them. We need to stop putting them in a box and thinking that they just have to constantly be protected because we're not always going to be there. So Amber, when she came to me and she said she wanted a cell phone in Hawaii, she said she made a very good point. She came home one day and she said, I just want you to know I'm going to be submitting a proposal. And I said, okay. So the next day I get her proposal. She had started, we were living at Hickam Air Force Base and outside Pearl Harbor. And it was the whole neighborhood had just been redone, all the new houses and everything. All these new families were moving in droves. You'd have 30, 40 families moving in at one time.
Oh my gosh.
And we're all trying to figure out who everybody is.
Sure.
You know? And your kids are playing with each other. If there's a kid across the park who falls and gets hurt, who's the mom?
Right.
You know?
Which one?
So and she started this babysitting, very lucrative babysitting
I'm
business.
sure.
But nobody had a landline. Everybody had cell phones. So when the parents are out and they want to call to see if everything's okay, or if something happens and she needs to call, she has no way to do that. So she submits this
smart
whole
girl.
entire proposal. And I was like, I'm like, okay, as long as we live in Hawaii, you will have a cell phone. So we go to the store and I'm going over to the flip phones and
Of
she's
course.
like, what's that? No, I want this one. I'm like, nope. All you need is to make phone calls. You don't need anything. Your proposal
Mama can play
didn't
this
say
too.
anything else.
One of
No,
our
I love
next
that.
audiences are the folks from Bark, or next guest on the podcast are the folks from Bark and their technology that they've created to at least help give parents support and create boundaries. And they've now created a cell phone that you can lock down and then expand out the
You can pick and
services.
choose what you give
can
them.
pick and choose
I
what you
love
give
that.
them. And
good.
so it's a scalable device because Brian, their CEO, said, I've never met a parent who says, I wish I gave my kids a cell phone earlier.
Yeah.
And so, but he said, sometimes you're in these situations where you realize, okay, they're getting off the bus and I'm not home from school and I want to be able to communicate with them or something. And so it was this all or nothing world. And I think the phone that they've created kind of brings choice back into the parents' world of how to allow communication in the technological age we're in, but to do it safely.
So I think pulling a little bit of the thread on this, let's talk about some of the online safety concerns because the reality is a lot of kids have this cell phone. We want, to Christy's point, we want to do our best to prevent that as long as possible. But we know that, grooming is happening on our gaming consoles, that kids are being sextorted every single day, that we were talking before the show about the rise in the number of male survivors of trafficking or online exploitation and just how that's leading to higher rates of suicide. Can you just kind of help articulate for our audience just some of those challenges that you all are hearing?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's so big.
It's so
and
big.
it's so much that moms feel very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why things like Bark and what you guys are doing with Simply Report is so critical because we're hungry for tools. Right. And as the head of a national organization of moms, I'm hungry for tools because they're coming to me and they're sharing their experiences with me and the things that their children being exposed to and they don't know what to do about it.
Right.
And if it's a book in a school, then go to the school board and hope it works out,
Right.
But it's not just there.
No.
And kids who are homeschooled or in private school, I mean, I was just talking to a group of parents out in, mostly moms, out in California last month. And they all go to this private school. And so they're all, well, luckily we're safe. You know, we're doing Mama Bear training. I'm like, well, I'm just so glad we're so blessed to be at this school. Well, one of the moms said, okay, you know, ladies, I just got to step in here.
She's going to throw her flag.
And she did. And she brought up some really good points. And after she spoke, then one of the other moms said, oh my gosh, my son is on that game. So you don't even know the tentacles that are out there. So they have all of these. It was actually one of our donors, our dads, who told me about this. I didn't know that this was a thing. Every time I turn around, there's something else. But they have these free games that kids can access, educational games that you can put on your iPads and that kind of thing. And parents are like, oh, yeah, that's great. And they think, and they'll monitor it. They're like, okay, you can have 20 minutes on or whatever. So he came into the kitchen one day during, her 20-minute time while he was getting ready for breakfast. And he comes over and he looks over his shoulder and he goes, oh, what are you playing? And she goes, oh, it's just a fun game. You're turning a boy into a girl. And it was this it starts out with the guy and he's got a beard. You take off the beard and you're literally turning him into a woman. And then they've got the woman that gets the beard and turns into a man. And this came off of a preschool game that is free. Anything that is free is never free. There's a purpose and a reason behind it, and it's usually to capture your children. So I said, so what did you do? And he said, I shut down the whole iPad. I did some serious research on what was actually safe out there. Yeah. So that's something else, safe games. So they came up with they have a whole entire suite of original games like Pac-Man and all that kind of stuff. And you can get that and you can plug it in so it's like a part and there's nothing attached to it.
That's great.
So when you download something online, you need to understand that it comes with tentacles. And when you think your child is playing something, you never know what they're going to click that's going to open up a whole new world that you didn't even know was there. So you cannot put them in a bubble in a specific, private school or homeschool them. Or they are being targeted at every level. And remember that you've got neighbors that the kids are playing with. What are they exposed to? Right. So we're hearing from moms who we have encouraged them, stop doing sleepovers. Right. That's a thing of the past. You don't do that anymore because you have no idea what's happening in that home or what those other children have been exposed to. And you need to start asking those questions.
You really do. I know we move around, every 2 to 3 years, like I'm sure you all did. And when we moved into our last duty station, neighbor, 6 kids. You celebrate that. You're like, yes, I'm moving into a neighborhood, 6 children, twin 6-year-old girls. My daughter was 6 at the time. This felt like a match made in heaven. And in that first week, the older boys, they were 8 and 10, came over to my husband and they were like, do you have any extra chores that we can do? And my husband's like, yeah, I'm happy to find chores, but can you tell me why? And they're like, well, my mom said that we need to get out of the house because she caught us watching XXX porn, and she said that we were a little bit too young still for that. And my husband was like,
a little bit too young?
Oh, yeah. Lots of red flags. This house, we ended up having it ended up having all the signs and markers of trafficking, and unfortunately later found out that these 6 children were experiencing exploitation. And obviously that was devastating.
But you bring up a very good point right there. What actually is exploitation? When you talk about the trafficking of children, you're thinking about, the Sound of Freedom. And that happens there a lot, unfortunately. But I mean, we have had moms come to us that we've talked to who, the one family, and it doesn't matter what income level you're at, what religion, race you are, it doesn't matter. They're targeting our kids. And so they were on a cruise ship, and it was, I can't remember where they were. It wasn't Mexico. They were somewhere else, but it was out in outside of the United States waters, and they were stopping at different locations. And they stopped at one of these locations, and their daughter never came back from port. And they were with her. I memean, they were literally in this market, and they turned to look at something, and then they go to ask her a question, and she's gone that fast. So you have to understand that happens, yes, but it also happens in the classroom. Right. It also happens in the home. And I'm going to say something that's going to freak people out, but you need to know that sibling sexual experimentation is atypical. you should just count on the fact that it's happening or it's going to happen. And you need to prepare yourself ahead of time. You need to talk to your kids about sexuality before the world does, because everyone else is trying to get to them, and you want them to hear from you, not them, right?
Right.
You have to have these conversations. So there was, when I was in school, there were books that were unacceptable. And as I'm 13 years old reading Forever by Judy Blume. And if you have
read that,
it's the book, it's like everybody's got to read the book.
Oh, Judy Blume.
And they don't, there's the sexuality in that is not, there's no romance, there's no love. There's just whatever makes me feel good, and then you're done, move on to the next guy. And it's the whole thing is it starts out, she gets this necklace that says, we'll be forever. He gives her a necklace, it's forever. And it lasted 6 months, and then they break up, and after they had this complete sexual relationship, which is very, very clearly outlined in the book. I'm 13 years old. Right. And I was like, and he names his member. And so you're like at 13, I'm like, this is just weird. And then right around the same time was when they started, I'm going to age myself, but in 1977 is when they really started pushing sex classes, sex ed as a separate class. Prior to that, just 2 years earlier, 5th grade, 6th grade, you're being brought into, your parents are totally notified. You're being brought into a room. Boys are in one room. The girls are in the other room. You're seeing the sex film, and it's telling you genetic information, biological information, and how to take care of yourself. And it's like, okay, and still uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah.
So 2 years later, I'm sitting in a classroom where they're showing films where this guy's walking on a beach singing a song called "I've Got the VD Blues," and I'm like, after the third class, and of course the boys are uncomfortable. What do boys do when they're uncomfortable?
Sure,
they become idiots. They laugh, they joke, they make fun of you. They're like, oh, gonna do that. And the girls are just like, trying to, and you're not comfortable, and you're handling it in different ways. And after the third class, when the VD Blues movie came out, I was like, okay, I'm so done. And I went and I told my mom, I was like, I told her what was going on in this class, and she's like, what? So she goes to the school and she opts me out, and I sit in the office during that whole period. I don't care. Right. And you can't do that anymore.
You can't?
Parents need to understand you can't opt out because it is in every single subject.
True.
They push it in. And they, in math class, they're working it in math class. I mean, when you look at some of the curriculum that's out there, you're like, how is this even possible? And then you've got the clubs that are after school. And so you cannot escape it. It doesn't matter where your kids are going to school. The culture permeates through the culture.
Well, it's in TV, it's on social media, it's in the classroom, it's in, just the culture and
Sesame Street.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen it on all of these things. And you bring up a great point. There was a friend of mine called the other day, and she said, I don't know what to do. She was nervous to tell me. And she said, I gave my daughter a phone. And I said, well, I told you she was too young for that. And she said, I know. She said, but I gave her a phone. And she, I caught her. We took it away because I caught her on it at 1:00 in the morning. And I'm not going to tell you what happened, but it was really good. And it was too much. And no, she was too young. And it was not, and it was like, what happened? And she said she was on her phone at 1:00 in the morning and was playing a game. She clicked on an ad, and she's smart enough now that when it asked for age verification, she put in a date older than hers. And she found herself in a chat with somebody who is instructing her at 10 years old horrific things to do to herself.
Oh, my God.
And she had no idea and was like, I don't know what they're telling me. I don't know what and thank God the mom walked in. But we see this, it's attacking kids from every single direction. Right. So what have you led moms to do, specifically on the trafficking side? How have you started to equip moms with the right information? Because we can't protect them unless we know the right information. Right. Give them the right information. Where is Moms for America, or the moms that you've mobilized, where are they stepping into this issue?
The most amazing thing about the organization is being able to find ladies like you and being able to find resources and tools and information that we can share with them, because we can't do it all. Right. And we don't try to. What we are is a center, a center force, if you will, for the moms who want the information and the people who have it. And we bring it to them. And we empower them. We have a Mama Bear training. And the first 15 minutes is a historical lesson on Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, and how they did all of these things to take over their countries, and a lot of the same things that are happening in our country and culture today. When you go through our Mama Bear training, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's happening right now. I've read Brave New World. I've read 1984, and this is where we are. And trying to explain that to moms in a way that doesn't freak them out but empowers them, that's where that's our secret sauce.
Right.
And we've put together several booklets that they can download. One is on parental rights. What are your parental rights? And helping them realize that they come from God, not government. And there is actually a law on the books, a federal law that reiterates the fact that parental rights are fundamental and supreme protected in the Constitution. And so they don't know that. And funny thing is, I didn't know that. I knew the first part, but I didn't know there was a law that backed it up. I'm like, wait, they had to go the extra level. And one of the things we help them understand is that you do not need a parental rights bill. You do not need a bill of parental rights. Bill of parental rights is something that is it's a fluff piece, and that's fine. You want a bill of parental rights, it's a statement that says this is who we are and these are our rights. A parental rights bill is a totally different thing. That's when you are codifying your rights. Your rights don't get codified. You own them all. So we have been actively opposing a lot of the parental rights bills because it has actually made it more difficult for parents to protect their children in these situations when you codify what our rights are. And the only thing you need to say, and every state needs to have it, is parental rights are fundamental. That is a legal term. And when you codify that, what that means is everything acquiesces to the parents. So when the state of California is trying to emancipate children, and actually they're doing it, they've passed laws where they are emancipating children at 12 years old, convincing them they aren't who they are. And when their parents disagree, they take their children away. And that is happening in Maine and Illinois and several other states. And I'm like, are you guys just competing for oppression? It's so the trafficking that's going on, parents need to understand. And every time I say this, it causes problems, but it is a reality that the largest trafficking organization in the United States is our education system. And they have used the word curriculum to hide it. And we are actively going against that. We created a model FCC standard bill, and it doesn't say FC standard when you introduce it into the states, but it follows the FCC standard that's already been recognized. When you get on a plane and you're watching a movie and the parental guidance thing comes up, maybe harmful or uncomfortable, whatever, parental guidance recommended. We have rated R, and we rate these things for a reason. Even on Netflix and the Prime, you see the numbers, what to count on. Right. And we want that. Right. But you walk up to the school door, and it's like you slap curriculum on the wall, and then it's like, enter in. Everything's welcome here. And that's what they try to convince you of. Right. So when you have moms going into the school board meetings and reading these books, this is the hilarious part of this, is that they are telling them you can't read this here because it's on public TV. I'm like, I'm sorry. But you're okay. You're sitting there completely uncomfortable. Imagine how the children feel in the classroom when you are actively grooming them and preparing them for being trafficked. What?
Yeah. Well, one of our previous guests is a mom named Susan Young, who is she is a mama bear, but her daughter was in Fairfax County schools. Yeah. And was being groomed and then trafficked by MS-13. She had reached out to the school for help 22 times, saying that something was wrong. And then she had been seen by medical professionals, but because she was over the age of 12 and a half, they did not give that information to the mom. And so not only was she trafficked, but all three of her siblings were sexually abused and raped by MS-13. And so when we don't allow parents to have access to understand that information, then it can be really critical. But on the flip side, we also know that 40% of child trafficking victims are first trafficked by a family member, 66% by somebody that they know and trust. And so it is about educating our healthcare partners to understand what does trafficking look like. What are those signs and indicators that when you've got a mom that's bringing in a child who's 13 years old and pregnant and has STDs, there might be some indicators there that make them raise questions. But and understanding what trafficking can look like in that familial setting, but blocking parents out from being able to stand in the gap for their kids as a protector, because we are putting it all under this, parental rights
Right.
language is hard. And because our job as parents is to know what's going on with our kids in order to step in order to protect them, because we're handing things to them, to your point, that they don't know what to do with that information. But
But we count on them to be able to have it so that we can help our children.
Right.
Nobody is going to love our children or want to protect them and care for them more than we do, except God himself. No one will.
Right.
And so all of those organizations, we had a document. We penned it in 2017, and it was introduced into the congressional record in 2018. And it's called the Declaration of Mothers. That's the title. And this year, we reintroduced it with a few little changes because we didn't realize that defining a man and a woman was going to be a thing. So we made a couple of additions in there and made the parent stronger. But that very first document, it said all of those organizations out there are to support us, whether it's church or community or school. They're all there to support us as parents, not replace us, not regulate us, not restrict us. And what's happening is they are replacing us with government entities that have no interest in our children. And I accept that they want them. And I have heard too many horror stories of parents who have lost their children to the system because the kids buy into these lies. Their frontal lobe hasn't even been developed. They have no, deep discernment. And by the time it clicks in, a lot of times it's too late because they've already been maimed or they have had drugs put in them. They have been sexualized in multiple different ways. And what's happening is they are committing suicide. And the numbers that they're pushing out there are, if you don't do this, if you don't accept this, then they're going to commit suicide. The fact is they commit suicide because they are being pushed down that path. Yeah. And you can never be other than what you are. No matter how many drugs you take or surgeries you have, if you were born a boy, you're going to die a man. If you were born a girl, you're going to die a woman. You cannot change that. And when it hits them, that's when they are just thrown off and they don't know what to do. And that's when they are the biggest target for victimization. And unfortunately, it's happening earlier and younger. And this is why, and I cannot herald enough what you ladies have done. Simply Report is the most incredible new thing on the market to help moms. And I know when I start pushing it out there, the first thing they're going to say is, what is the difference between the hotline and what you do? Because I'm going to tell you, I've known that the hotline was a joke for a long time. When you started throwing out the statistics and everything and what actually happens, what or doesn't happen, I was like, it's way worse than I even thought. And it's like you throw up a number so you can check a box and pat yourself in the back and feel good. No, we want something that's actually going to do something.
Right.
So what it makes the app different so that it's actually doing what we want it to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, Simply Report was really developed because of exactly what you're saying. People were asking us for solutions that they knew would provide a real-time action, not only to get that information to law enforcement, but if they needed services or their child needed services, they wanted to be connected with vetted resources where their kids could really get the support and healing that they need. And so I'll let Christy describe how Simply Report works, but it is a game changer.
So we've been telling people for years, if you see something, say something, right? But their question has always been,
how?
Who do I, what am I looking for and who do I say it to? And there have been challenges where people have tried calling hotlines or crisis lines or whatever that may be. They're stuck on wait times. They're not getting the services that they need. And ultimately, we had 41 attorneys general who just came forward about the National Human Trafficking Hotline saying, these tips aren't making it to us. There's third-party tips that are not being routed, and this is a challenge. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that parents knew how to address concerns that they're seeing when their next door neighbor has 6 children and men are circulating through the night. What do you do? So it is a tool. It's a multi-channeled AI-powered tool. So it is phone, it is text, it is app, it is web-based that parents can engage and engage with the chatbot. Think of going on to Delta, except it's 10 times better. 1,000 times better. But they're
the best one out there.
but people are used to engaging with chatbots.
Right.
But it's they're able to just share what they're seeing. But in real time, it is assessing the information that they're doing. It's doing something really geeky called natural language processing, which is basically
machine learning.
And machine learning. So it's
And
taking
all my data fun.
all of her fun things. It's her brain, not mine. But it takes the things that we're saying and it's marrying it against a behavioral matrix. Now, this behavioral matrix was developed by a phenomenal gentleman who developed the behavioral matrix for the FBI post 9/11 to identify where somebody was on the spectrum of extremist to terrorist. So this type of behavioral matrix has already been proven highly effective. So he worked with Brittany and a team of survivors and law enforcement and healthcare providers and clinicians to develop a list of over 700 behavioral indicators of trafficking. And so as somebody is chatting with this chatbot saying, I live next door to a mom of 6. She's on drugs. Men are circulating through the house. The little girls are 6 years old and they're talking about porn. And, they seem a little out of it. Something seems off. However it is that they're saying it, it is ranking it against the behavioral matrix and ranking the likelihood of this being a trafficking situation. So it takes the guesswork out of it. No more, I don't know, I'm not sure. So once it hits a threshold of a likelihood of trafficking, based upon that score, it is immediately routing it to dashboards that are accessible by law enforcement in order to see properly aggregated, vetted, ranked, and geographically routed tips. So if they are traveling and they are going through somewhere and they see a little kid getting in and out of truck stops or truck cabs and they think something looks off, it doesn't matter that they don't know where they are in the middle of Kansas. They have the ability to engage with the app based upon their geolocation, and it can get that appropriate information to the right law enforcement agency. It's a game changer because it's real-time, actionable intelligence going to law enforcement in a powerful way.
Yeah.
And it's on your phone where everybody lives.
Yeah, exactly. It's so simple. This is where we're at. We're literally at the mobile. You push it right off of you download it. It's our beautiful Yet Square. There we go. Chat now. And there we start the process.
Oh, my goodness.
Makes it
takes
easy.
the guesswork out.
Right. And no wait times, no questions on whether or not what you're seeing is right. And we have talked to so many moms, so many people that said, I saw something, but I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to report something.
Oh, well, that takes the guesswork out of that, too.
Takes
so you're,
the guesswork
you're,
out of
you're
it.
safe on multiple levels.
Right.
You know that when you report it, it's going to go somewhere. And you know that when you report it, if it shouldn't go somewhere, that it will stop.
Right.
So the big thing is everybody just needs to download the app.
Right.
They do.
So I did it after the press conference.
Perfect. Yep. Go to simplyreport.com. It's on the Apple Store. It's on the Google Play Store. It is the tool that we want to equip everyday Americans to understand how to identify and respond to human trafficking in an effective and simple way.
So I will tell you that there will be a lot of kids who are going to be very interested in this because they are trapped in a system where they have no voice. They're being bullied by adults, and they come home and the moms have no idea what to do. They go to the school board meetings. They talk to the teachers. The students are one of the moms who actually is one of our leaders in Utah, of all places. Her son was they have. I didn't think cell phones should ever be in the schools, but as long as they're there, turn it on and record these people when they're doing these things. But they took they now have taken the cell phones away, can't have them in school. And the teacher, he had a little recorder, and the teacher said, you are not to talk about what we're talking about in this class. If you do, you will be penalized. Just bullying them. And I was like, this is the kind of thing where you have some place to go, and we can start reporting adults in situations where they are directly have authority over children and call them out.
Right.
when they're doing these things. And it's not about teachers, okay? Are there some teachers that are doing it? Yes. It's about adults. It is adult driven. And these are clubs after schools. These are counselors. They're every school across the country got federal money to put a psychologist and or sociologist in every school. And their whole entire job is to transition kids. So identify them, start these after school clubs, don't tell your parents you're safe here. And now this is what excites me most about this app, this incredible tool, because now they have power in those situations. You are empowering the kids and the moms to be able to go somewhere and say something, and people start being held accountable so we can stop this for once and for all.
Right. We had a situation in upstate New York where their kids had actually been sold for sex for years by the principal. And, they didn't know how to report it. And to them, it's the person that you're supposed to be able to report things to.
And you can't.
That's actually the one that's been abusing them. And they're getting sold for sex, being sexualized by them and sexually abused by him. And do you think how many kids have been in a situation where they have been sexually abused by an adult, where they have not been able to report it, where they have then it transfers out to being sold for sex somewhere else, or sexual explicit images online that then are rampant through the schools, that they're getting sextorted and they're being forced into sexual acts. Like, these are the things that are happening in our schools, that being able to equip kids with the right tool to be able to report when they're seeing something like that or experiencing something like that is critical.
And it's safe. So it's not, and one of the other things that one of the moms—
And it can be anonymous.
Yeah, because one of the moms told me that her son, I don't know how to help him. She broke down crying in the middle of our mama bear training. She didn't know what to do. She's like, he doesn't like it. He's being intimidated and bullied by adults. He's afraid to say anything because then they'll pick on him even more. He'll get a bad grade. He doesn't want me to say anything because they'll be harder on him. And this is a way that we can take that fear out and allow them to report the things that need to be reported.
Well, awesome. Well, as we close, I just want to say thank you, because you are just a fierce advocate for the vulnerable kids, for every child. And it is truly remarkable to see the way that you have mobilized moms, parents, communities for lasting impact. And so we are so grateful for you pushing out Simply Report to every single mom and child across America, because this is how we make a real lasting change, is when we lock arms as organizations, as moms, as partners, and see opportunities to really drive home collective impact. So thank you for being here. And thank you for joining us for the Team Protectors podcast. First, go download Simply Report. Next, like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time.